Okay, guys, I have played and platinumed 6 mainline Resident Evil games. That means I've played them on the hardest difficulty. So let's rank all the bosses I have faced if you play them on the hardest difficulty. So this will include the games Resident Evil 1, 2 Remake, 3 Remake, 4 Remake, Resident Evil 7, and Resident Evil Village, the most latest entry. So I've got all the bosses here. I've ranked it up pretty straightforward. There's easy, surprisingly there are a few easy ones. There's tricky, which is, poses a few challenges, but you should get through it pretty straightforward. Challenging is where, you need to now start thinking about what weapons and loadout you took into the boss battle, etc. You might die a few times. Hard is obviously, hard. It's going to take a few tries. You might have to try different tactics. And then very difficult is those frustrating bosses, the ones that you think are going to end your platinum run, or things that maybe are going to lead you to smashing a controller. So let's take this in order of the order that I played the games, actually. So we'll start off with Resi 7. We'll mix up the order, but let's get one game out the way fully. So Resident Evil 7's first boss is Mia. Mia is... I would put Mia in tricky because you just start off the game. It's a very intense start to the game as well, especially if you're new to survival horror and you only have your pistol with not a huge amount of bullets, and you've got to be a bit careful with this boss fight. But it's tricky. That's all it is. It's tricky. And then after Mia, you have to fight Jack Baker. Jack Baker you fight 3 times, and I've included all 3 of his fights, I believe, because they're all very different. Yeah, you fight him in the garage. I think by now, I don't think you have the shotgun. I think you still have just the pistol, but it's a big enough area, and there's a few narrative things you have to do in the boss fight to kind of get past him. You have to get the keys to the car and get in the car. So it's a boss fight, but also there's some things that you must do to end the boss fight, if that makes sense. So it's not too bad. It's just a bit tricky once you figure it out. Once you figure it out, you're fine. And then after that, going in order, you fight Jack Baker again in the morgue. And this is kind of more intense. It's a small area. He moves pretty quick. He kind of gets at you. You've got to keep going backwards and in circles whilst shooting him non-stop. But you do get a chainsaw to use. So, I mean, I'll put it in challenging for now. That might change. But I'll put it in challenging. Next up in Resident Evil 7, aka Biohazard, is the Marguerite Baker fight. Ooh. On the hardest difficulty, this is a messy fight. You get loads of ammo in the level that you're in, but she's a nasty boss. She kind of crawls up on the ceiling. She goes out kind of loads of windows. The arena's kind of semi-big. It's like this 2-floor section of a house, basically a house. And then like a garden area or conservatory area, which again is 2 floors. I'm going to put it on hard. Her weak point's really weird as well. Her weak point is like between her legs. It's really weird. It's a really creepy, disgusting boss fight. She's awful. That's going to go in hard. This might change as I go along. So I might discover more ones that are hard. I know a few that are very difficult. I know a few that are definitely going in very difficult for sure. And then we've got in Resident Evil 7, we've got the Baker fight. Let me check. I think that's the last one. Yeah, we got the Baker fight. Jack Baker in his final form. He's kind of a bit like Salazar in Resident Evil 4. He becomes this big octopusy type Resident Evil thing with loads of eyeballs. He has like 6 or 7 eyeballs and all in different places. So you have to keep going around and shooting them. Again, it's a 2-story location, but for you to get up, you have to climb up a ladder. he can just move around easily. It's on the hardest difficulties. Is it hard? Is it challenging? I'm going to go with hard. I think it's hard. I think if I remember correctly, I struggled with it. So after I played Resident Evil 7, I kind of started to get into the series. And so I picked up Resident Evil 2 Remake. And in Resident Evil 2 Remake, you fight a dude called William Birkin, aka G1, G2, G3. Each time he morphs into a new evolution of his thing, his virus being. The first one is G1, I believe it's called. This isn't too bad. You're in this big area and he kind of follows you around and you just gotta keep running. You could just run away from him, turn around and get like 3-4 shots into his weak point and then run around again. There are a lot of people online who have like a knife only tactic, which kind of works if you're good at it. This is tricky. It's not easy, but it's tricky. Yeah, I'd put that in tricky. And then we go into Resident Evil 2. I'm thinking about the next boss fight in order. It's probably his second evolution, which is this guy. Yeah, I would put this in tricky as well. This is the one where you fight him underground and you have that big container thing and you have to weaken him enough that when you press the button on the container, it pushes him off the platform. It's not that bad. And again, the game gives you a lot of ammo. Yeah, that's not the worst. Then you have the one with Leon where you fight him properly in the lab. That's quite a good boss fight. That's a proper boss fight. And again, on the hardest difficulty, I'm just going with tricky, to be honest. I don't think it's challenging. You have quite a lot of ammo by then. You have all the guns that you can get in the game. And yeah, I'm happy with going with that. And then his final version, I'm making sure I haven't missed any. Oh, there's also Super Tyrant. Super Tyrant is who you fight with when you're Leon on the elevator up. And the countdown's happening. This is kind of... I could put this on challenging. This one's tricky because it's a small space. Again, you're on this elevator and he's got his big arm with the claws. And he has this attack where he out of nowhere just kind of surges into you, which you have to kind of avoid. I think I'm going to put this in tricky, you know. I think this is tricky. It's not challenging. It's tricky. And then you have the boss when you play as Claire. Claire fights G4 or G5, which is like the final evolution. It's on top of the train. You have the minigun by now. You have a lot of weapons by now. The game does give you a lot of guns to use on him, but it is hard and the boss battle takes ages. You have to really plow a lot of bullets into him. This goes into tricky. The final boss of Resi 2 is just one of those bosses that Resident Evil does now and again, where you're basically shooting this massive monstrosity that isn't going to hurt you. It's just moving towards you slowly. So I put this in easy because I don't think I've ever failed. I've played this game. I've done about 6-7 playthroughs to get the platinum and I've never failed this boss. So I'll put that in easy. And then we move on to Resident Evil 3 Remake, which I did about 2 weeks after doing Resident Evil 2. Because I started getting really into the series. And in Resident Evil 3, probably the one I know the least possibly are the ones that I played, because I've not played it back many times. I could only remember that the boss battles were Nemesis. You find Nemesis in like 3 or 4 different forms. I think I've got 3 here. So the first one is on the rooftop, which he has his rocket launcher. He kind of moves slowly. You have quite a few weapons. There's a few red barrels and electricity boxes around that you can shoot to kind of disengage him a little bit. On the hardest difficulty, I don't think I'd call it easy. I'd call it tricky. Yeah, I'd go with tricky. We don't had a very difficult yet. We'll get a very difficult, don't worry. If you've played some of these, you might be able to predict which ones I'm going to say are very difficult. Actually, we got one coming up, actually, very soon. And then you fight him here, which is in that big outdoor area where he's running across the buildings. And you have to shoot the landmine thing, whatever it is. And then he runs over and he blows up. This is challenging. Yeah. This took me a few tries on the hardest difficulty, no question about it. That was quite tricky. I say tricky, I don't mean this tricky. I just mean it was quite tricky is the term. And then this one in the Nest Lab, I didn't find this too bad. I'm going to put this in tricky. And then you have the final boss of Resident Evil 3, his final form. I'm going to put this in very difficult because I remember this well. It was a Sunday. I'd saved the game up where I had about 10 minutes left. By now I've done 4 or 5 playthroughs, so I knew the game nearly off by heart. I knew I had about 5 to 10 minutes left and then the final boss. So this was like a nice free casual Sunday. And I thought to myself, boom, I'm going to get this platinum trophy in like 5 minutes. I can start a new game. I can make a video about it, blah, blah, blah. Mate, 2 hours later, I was still fighting this guy. It's one of those ones where he becomes this big monstrosity, but he attacks you and you have to damage him. But when he's down and damaged and you think you can do more damage to him, you have to run to the sides of the room and you have to like pull a lever or something. You have to hold X or tap X to do something that activates the machine that's actually going to properly kill him. And you have to do that on both sides. And it's just, yeah, I think 1 or 2 hits and you're dead. It's annoying. There's a tiny bit of RNG involved as well, like because he hits you in different directions. So then if you're running to a lever and he's hit you in that direction and you can't dodge it, it's kind of just bad luck. But I want to put that in very difficult. I'm then going to break my order because that was January 2023 and then April 2024 I played Resident Evil 4 for the first time. But I'm going to skip to Resident Evil 1 Remaster. So to be honest, Resident Evil 1 bosses, it's a fixed camera tank controls game. It's different. Comparing it to these games is very unfair, but I think most of these are going to be an easy. Like the G4 plant is easy. The spider is easy. You'll get creeped out, but the spider's easy. The snake is easy because a lot of these is like in the boss battle, there'll be 2 or 3, maybe just 2 fixed camera angles. The boss is on one side, you're on here, you shoot. Boss comes, you run around. Then you're on this side, you shoot. It's, it's not that hard. It's the fixed camera that makes it really difficult. With the snake, you know exactly where he's going to go, so you can stand and be ready, aiming there. Lisa Trevor, I thought was going to be hard, but she isn't because you can ignore her and just go and do... She's one of those boss battles where you have to do something whilst fighting the boss, and you can do those 4 things quickly, and then it kind of ends the boss battle. Crimson Head, I think it's the first boss battle in Resident Evil 1. I'll say he's tricky. Because I think it's your first boss battle with those kind of controls. He moves quick as well. It's not the biggest space you're in. The Tyrant at the end, I'll also put in tricky as well because there's a big area you fight him in at the end and he can move into different camera angles. So then he'll run off camera and you got to chase him, or he'll chase you into a different camera angle and you got to aim properly at him. So, I've just noticed that I completely forgot Evelyn, who's the final boss of Resident Evil 7. The reason I forgot her is because she's easy. She's not much of a boss battle. If you've played it, you'll know what I mean. It's more of a narrative boss battle. So yeah, sorry, Evelyn. And then we go on to Resident Evil 4 and Village. Let's go with my favorite Resident Evil 4. Let's try and go in order of the game. Del Lago, oh my god. Del Lago is like the sea monster that you fight. It's quite a unique boss battle. You're on a boat being dragged along by him and you have to throw harpoons. And it's one of those boss battles that if you hit every shot into Del Lago, you'll end the boss battle quickly. The longer you let it go on for, it goes completely out of control, the boss battle. He starts doing all kinds of different maneuvers, becomes RNG. Your boat will smash into debris. It gets tricky, no question about it. So because it's not easy aiming at a whale while you're chasing them on a boat, I'm gonna put this on challenging. Yeah, I'm gonna put it on challenging. Then after Del Lago, you fight El Gigante. By now you've got rifle, shotgun, pistol. You've got access to those weapons. You've got flash grenades. You can upgrade your weapons quite a bit. I would just say this is tricky, to be honest. I think as long as you're well equipped, and the trick with him is flash grenades. When his Plagas comes out the back of his neck or back, you throw flash grenades, he just falls to the floor straight away, and then you can shoot him. But it's tricky, for sure. It's tricky. If you don't have the right loadout, it can be tricky. And you won't know that until you tried it. After him, it's Mendez, Chief Mendez, Betoros Mendez. This dude is a pain in the ass. I've played this game about 87 times now. I know it off by heart. But he is still on professional, the hardest difficulty in RE4. He is... I'll put him in hard. I did it recently, actually. I fought him recently on professional, and I got through it like on the second or third attempt, but he's hard. He's hard. You got to be ready. You got to have good aim. You got to upgrade certain weapons, and you just got to be ready. The problem with him is the location. You're in this burning barn, and the back of it is like burning. And if you're as Leon, if you back up into the barn, Leon like catches a few flames. He doesn't hurt him, but he starts doing this, and he starts like rubbing off the flames, and then you're like, you can't reload, you can't aim. It really frustrates me. But yeah. Next up after Mendez is, in order, I think it's, is it Krauser with the knife fight, or is it Verdugo? I think it's Verdugo. This guy is a total dickhead, and he goes into very difficult. There's no question. This guy is awful. He's arguably the hardest boss I've faced in any Resident Evil game. He's the guy who you fight in the sewers and you can't damage him in general. You just can't damage him. So the only way to damage him is in the sewers. There are 3 ice things. There are 3 buttons on the wall that you press, and it activates this ice kind of shower that just comes straight down, and that goes on him and freezes him. And that's the only times you can damage him. And once you've pressed one of those buttons, it's offline for like a minute. Then you have to run to the other one. He's attacking you while you're running to the other one. Yeah, he's comfortably the hardest. I've fought him without the rocket launcher on professional difficulty, and it takes everything. Like, it takes all your ammo. You need to have a magnum. It's very difficult. And then we got Krauser with the knife on professional. If you haven't upgraded your knife during the playthrough, this is like the Del Lago fight. It can get out of control. He can start jumping around a lot. He starts kicking you. He throws you off the side of the platform, and then you're hanging, and you've got to smash X loads. This is one of those fights that can get out of your hands quickly, and you waste a lot of health items. You run through knives. It's hard. He's hard. It's a good fight. I mean, the fight literally turns the game into like a From Software game where all it's about is parrying. You have no weapons other than your knife, and you have to parry really well and dodge really well and then get your attacks in. It's tricky. You have to upgrade your knife in the build up to this. And then we've got Ramon Salazar. I don't like this boss fight. It's so annoying. It's again one of those where the room you're in is like 2 floors with a high ceiling, and he can go everywhere. So he can go on the ceiling, he spits this black goo at you from far away, like he just sprays it across like that, so you have to run in line and avoid it. If he gets too close to you, he can instant kill you. Your aim is really got to be on point. It's a real ammo. The fight really takes most of your ammo away. It's very annoying. It gives you a lot of ammo, but yeah, you fire a lot into him. If you know Resi 4 well, there is a very easy way of beating this guy, even on the hardest difficulty. A very easy way that involves a couple of golden eggs, FYI. After Salazar, we then fight Krauser. This is, I said Verdugo is the hardest fight in Resident Evil games, but maybe, I don't know, I could take that back. Krauser goes into very difficult. This boss battle is like 5 stages, 3 stages of fighting him, and like 2 stages of traversing through this battleground that he's made while he shoots at you and stuff, and it comes out randomly and attacks you. But the end fight, the final version of this fight, when he's transformed into his virus version of himself, he comes at you really quickly, so you can't really use your sniper because he's too close to you to use it, and he'll hit you with his transformed arm, so you have to parry it. And on professional difficulty, you can only do a perfect parry, so you can't even just spam parry. You have to really time it and get it right, and then get your shots off immediately. It's tricky, and he moves so quick, and you'd think because he's so close to you, you can shoot him easily, like with a shotgun and stuff, but you'll aim and he'll just suddenly move to the left or right and you miss a shot. This is very difficult. You have to move quick in this boss fight. It's really intense. It's definitely very difficult. And then we've got Sadler. Sadler's a weird one. It's a massive arena, and he's one of those, he becomes one of those Jack Baker Salazar things where he's like an octopus and he has eyes everywhere and you've got to shoot his eyes. The hardest part about this is probably aiming for the eyes. He doesn't attack you too badly. In fact, the bugs come and they annoy you more. So I'm gonna put him in. When I fought him on professional without a rocket launcher, I did alright. I just ran out of Magnum bullets. I wish I had a bit more Magnum ammo, but otherwise I was kind of all right. So I think I'll go with Tricky. Lots of Trickies. On to Resident Evil 8 Village, which out of the 6 platinums I've done in Resident Evil, I think this is the hardest. It has a difficult mercenaries trophy in it, which is really annoying. It's a bit of a grind. And it has possibly the hardest difficulty playthrough, which you can prepare for. You can save up and get like really powerful weapons, but if you don't, like I can beat Resident Evil 4 professional without bonus weapons. This one, it's hard. It is so hard. So we'll go in order. We'll start off with the 3 daughters. So Lady D has 3 daughters. I've only put up one of them because the first one is the hardest because you only have a pistol. It's a tight little room on the side of the kitchen. If you're like me the first time, you have no idea what you're meant to do. I didn't even know about the window. And the second and third daughters that you fight, you're way more equipped. The third one is so easy. The second one, the room helps you because it's got the roof window, if you remember. So she is definitely tricky. And then we've got Lady Dimitrescu is... She's challenging because you're on the top of the castle and like she'll fly away, and unless you're good with the sniper and you hit her from that far, you won't be able to damage her. So if you're not good with your shots, you won't hit her. If you're not good with your aim, you won't hit her. Then she's flying around and you can't damage her. Then when she lands back on the ground, you have to damage her as much as possible. The good advantage is when she's on the floor, on the same floor as you, she moves quite slowly. So you can get quite a few shots into her. But again, it's the early part of the game. You don't have an immense amount of weapons. I think by then you just have a shotgun, pistol, rifle, the starter, not the starter pistol maybe, but the starter rifle. And then we've got, I might get the order wrong, but I left out Donna Bienviento because that doll fight is more of a narrative thing. It's not really a boss fight. Moreau is hard, no question about it. Maybe even very difficult. I think he's hard. It's a big arena. He has this weird acid thing where he vomits out acid and it rains over. You can hide from that quite quickly, but it's, yeah, he's hard. There's a lot of red like barrels around, so if you can kind of maneuver him to chase you and go near a red barrel, you can use that to blow him up a little bit, but you really got to have the right weapons upgraded to tackle him. And then we have Urias. Is he next? I think so. This is the first massive werewolf giant guy that you fight. This is in the cavern. And I don't find this too difficult, you know. I'm going to put this in challenging. Because he's on this big platform, you unload loads of shots at him, and then there's loads of pillars in the cavern. And when he jumps down to try and beat you up, you can go around the kind of pillar and hide around and kind of aim and keep moving. So I think if you've got the right tactics and good guns, you can tackle this guy. Then we've got Sturm. Sturm is this, I don't know what to describe Sturm, this man machine that has like an engine for a head. And the tricky thing with this dude is in the room, you enter this room with tight corridors and he's there. And as he runs through the walls, he starts to break the room open until it's a big open space. But until then, it's quite awkward and tight because you can hear him coming, but you don't know which wall he's going to burst through and hit you. And I think he's a guy, I think if he hits you once, you're dead. I think that, or at least 2 shots. But he's kind of easy in the sense that all you have to do is get in his way. He starts charging towards you, jump out the way. He hits the wall and you fire behind him where you can enter the entry point to his engine. So I think I'm going to put him on tricky because he only has 1 real attack for you. He also does blow out fire. You can kind of avoid that easily once the room's kind of open. Then you have Urias' brother or something. You fight this guy as Chris. You're in a tight space. You can only use the weapons Chris has, which is a machine gun and a pistol. You have to use your laser pointer thing, which you have to hold on him for like 20 seconds to get airstrikes in to attack him. You have to do it 3 times. He attacks you a lot while you're doing that. He's all right, but it's a weird one. He's one of those where he's a giant, and if you like stick to one of his legs and keep rotating around him and avoiding whichever arm is trying to hit you, you can kind of scam it a little bit, but I'd put this in hard. It is a hard fight. Especially the first time, it's a hard fight. On to the last 2. And these 2, it's easy. These 2 are very difficult, no question. Heisenberg. Heisenberg is also a contender alongside Krauser and Verdugo for the hardest Resident Evil boss fight. In fact, I'd say he possibly is the hardest until we get to the next one. The first stage of this fight, you fight him in a car and you have to hit his weak points. He's like this massive machine and you cannot miss 1 shot. You can't miss 1 shot. Every single shot you're firing non-stop, by the way, you're just holding R2. Every shot has to be hitting him. And then he comes to approach you and you're 2 hit. If he hits you twice, you're dead. And when he approaches you, you can't really dodge him because your car's not fast enough. So you have to save your rocket launcher to blow him away. If your rocket launcher isn't reloaded in time, then he hits you. Yeah, you're 1 hit away from dying. So it took me 3, I got the hang of it quick. It took me 3-4 times, but it's hard. You can't make 1 mistake. It's a good boss battle. And then we got Mother Miranda. Oh my God. Mother Miranda is the most insane boss fight. Yeah, this is she just moves a lot. Like she just flies through the sky, she lands, these trees come out of nowhere. And then there's a second stage where it goes black and white and you're like everything's darkness and she comes from different corners. It took me ages to learn that I could put like mines and proximity mines on the floor and then that blows her up and takes damage to her. Yeah, she is so hard. Definitely so hard. So 38 bosses ranked. 2 from Village are in very difficult, 2 from Resi 4 and 1 from Resident Evil 3. Looking at these 4, I have got to say I almost feel like putting this down into hard. Because it doesn't really compare to these 4, but I'll leave it there. I'll show Jill some love. And then hard is Salazar. What's been left out of hard? Yeah, Jack Baker in the morgue doesn't compare to final Jack Baker and Marguerite. This version of Nemesis doesn't compete with these guys. The Largo is, if you land your shots, it's not too hard. You can finish it. Dimitrescu isn't as hard as these guys. And this dude, yeah, I'm kind of happy with that choice. There's a lot in Tricky because, yeah, I think for some of these it depends on just what weapons you have, what grenades you have in your loadout, if you save the right weapons and grenades, you've got the right tactics. But once you figure them out, it's okay. It's straightforward. Like El Gigante can be challenging, but again, if you've got the right weapons upgraded, if you've got flash grenades and you're good with your aim, you can tackle it. Now I stand by easy. It's not, it's harsh to compare the Resident Evil 1 remaster boss battles because then, some of them take like 2-3 minutes. I think the snake took me like a minute or 2 as an example, so can't really compare. But yeah, the 6 games I've played and the 38 odd bosses, that's how I would rank them in terms of difficulty. I'll update this one day in the future once I've played 5, 6, 0, and the Revelations. I've still got quite a few Resident Evils to get through. But yeah, let me know in the comments. Who do you think is the most difficult Resident Evil boss you have ever faced on the hardest difficulty, no rocket launcher? Let me know what you guys found. Maybe you disagree and some of these guys belong in very difficult. Maybe some of these you didn't find very difficult. I don't know. Let me know in the comments, guys. And thanks a lot for watching.